I think it was Swamiji wrote to Trigunatita and told him not to preach Ramakrishna Paramahamsa as God in Western countries. They need to stick to the principles he taught, let people think whatever they like of his person. Truce to all quarrels and jealousies and bigotry. These will spoil everything. But many that are first shall be last, and the last first. Those who are devotees of my devotees are my best devotees. So we'll start there on page 27. The necessity for an organization to channel all the energy and love that was being poured out by those of his younger brothers, such as Sarada and Gangadhar, continually weighed upon Swamiji. In January 1895, he sent to Swami Ramakrishnananda a list of instructions for the organization of the work. In the course of this letter, he wrote, I have got Sarada's letters. He is doing good work, but now we want an organization. To him, Brother Tarak and others, please give my special love and blessings. Please convey to Sarada, that's Trigunatita, 100,000 bravos from me. There's a hero indeed. Well done, all of you. Bravo, lads. The beginning is excellent. Go on in this way. Thus did Swamiji train and encourage his brother disciples from halfway across the world. Though he sometimes scolded them unmercifully, the work they were doing immensely pleased him. Perhaps the humanitarian work of Sarada and Gangadhar were closest to his heart, but he praised them all. To tell you the truth, he wrote to all the brothers of the Math, I do not find among you any distinction of great or small. Everyone has the capacity to manifest, in times of need, the highest energy. I see it. I look, for instance, how Shashi will remain always constant to his spot. Then, after highly praising the deeds of the others, how extensively has Sarada traveled and sown seeds of gigantic future works. Now and then, Swami Trigunatita would return from his wanderings to the Math, which had been moved from Baranagar to Ulambazar in February of 1892. He also stayed in Calcutta at the home of Balaram Bose or of M. The Swami's loving nature and easygoing cheerfulness endeared him to everyone. Swami Shuddhananda first met Swami Trigunatita at M's house when he, Swami Shuddhananda, was a young schoolboy. Unlike other Swamis, Swami Shuddhananda related, Swami Trigunatita was friendly with the boys and would laugh and joke with them, so that love conquered their reserve. If you smoke before me, he told them. Don't hide anything. Whatever you do, do before me. He was loved by all the boys. He was so companionable. He had a great influence over them. He mingled freely in households, whereas other Swamis were aloof. He showed the women how to cook special dishes and so on. He nursed the children of the neighborhood who were ill. He loved children. Many years later, Swami Shuddhananda would write to a Western student of Swami Trigunatita's, who had queried him about some biographical data regarding the Swami. He wrote, so long as the Lord spared him amongst us, I found him so loving and helpful. In his presence it was all joy and blessedness, and all sorts of misery and evil and despondency vanished, as it were. Swami Trigunatita had a prodigious capacity for eating and digesting food. He could equally well starve himself for days on end, and often did, subsisting on 1 banana a day. Such was his control over his body. He was once invited by Swami Premananda's mother for dinner along with 3 other guests who failed to arrive. Seeing the vast amount of food that had been prepared, Swami Trigunatita, in order to spare his hostess the least disappointment, ate up not only his portion, but that of the missing guests as well. The story is also told that once when he was very sick with stomach trouble, Swami Brahmananda sent him to a doctor in Calcutta who was a friend of the monks. Since hospitality must be given before treatments, this doctor, who knew that the Swami could eat sumptuously, brought a large plate piled with all kinds of sweets. Obligingly, Swami Trigunatita ate them all. After he had finished, this doctor asked him, "Now, why have you paid this visit?" To the doctor's horror, Swami Trigunatita casually replied, "Swami Brahmananda sent me to you. I have had very bad stomach trouble." Can you imagine the doctor's face after he'd eaten a whole plate of sweets? During this period of wandering about, preparing himself for a journey to Tibet, preaching wherever he went, Swami Trigunatita also served Sri Sarada Devi, the Holy Mother. In December of 1893, she had come from the countryside where she had been living to stay at Nilambar Mukherjee's rented garden house on the Ganga at Belur, a house that was later on to be used as a monastery by the monks of the Ramakrishna order. Here she stayed for some months, and here Swami Trigunatita, devoted to her, was among those who attended to her needs. He performed his service to her with the greatest of tenderness and care. For whether or not she had early on initiated him with the mantra, she was his mother, as she was to all of Sri Ramakrishna's monastic disciples. It is said that when she was staying at Nilambar Babu's garden house, the Swami used to spread a clean cloth below a Shephalika, a weeping hyacinthus tree, so that the flowers dropping from them at night might not get spoiled by touching the ground. He would then collect these blossoms in the morning for the mother to use during her worship. In the beginning of 1894, when Holy Mother went to Balaram Bosa's wife, who was deeply bereaved by the recent death of her daughter, to Kelwar in Bihar, Swami Trigunatita was among those who accompanied her. In May of 1895, the Swami deemed himself physically ready for the journey into the Himalayas. He wrote to a friend in Almora who told him that he could enter Tibet from there. So on June 5, he set off from Calcutta on this adventuresome and extremely hazardous pilgrimage. Now, we are going to journey to Tibet. Chapter 3. Exactly how long Swami Trigunatita's pilgrimage to Tibet lasted, it is hard to say. But on his return to Calcutta, probably in September or October of 1895, this was only like 6 months later then, he would write a sort of travelogue of his Himalayan adventure, which would be published in 9 widely spaced installments in the Indian Mirror. The first article appearing on December 22, 1895, the last on May 30, 1897. In narrating in brief the Swami's long trek, we shall draw heavily upon this series, which was entitled Swami Trigunatita's Visit to Tibet. Swami Trigunatita's 3-year preparation for his journey into Tibet may have helped to strengthen his physique, but one guesses that he had little idea of what the high Himalayas were like. Still, even if he had known, he would not have been in the least daunted. Although in these years he was slender and appeared even delicate. Now, I think some of you, well, I will show you the picture of him on the front of the book, and he's a sturdy man. His health had, on the whole, been robust since childhood. His spirit was equally robust. What to fear? Thus, on June 5 in 1895, he started off by train, stopping at Benares, where he called on the famous Paramahamsa Swami Bhaskarananda and the Pandit Parmadadas Mitra, with the latter of whom Swamiji had corresponded at some length in 1888 and 1890. Pramadadas Babu, who had high regard for the monks of the Ramakrishna order, gave Swami Trigunatita some money for his journey. The Swami continued on by train, traveling only by night because of the intense heat of the plains. He stopped at Lucknow and Shahjahanpur and thence to Katgodam, where he arrived via Bareilly in the morning of June 12th. So far, so good, except for the unbearable heat in Katgodam. The Swami's immediate objective was Almora, to reach which one could take a pony or a dundee from Katgodam. He chose to walk. At the very sight of the mountains, he would write, the idea of the perilous journey which I was going to undertake rushed into my mind and filled my heart with a heroic and adventurous spirit, which induced me to give up the idea of hiring or taking the help of a pony or a dundee, and stimulated me to march on foot. The hardships of Hannibal over the Alps and those of Alexander the Great while crossing the Hindu Kush all came before my mind. So the Swami set out on foot, barefoot, on the hilly road to Almora in the burning heat. Soon he found himself in the midst of a dense forest, only the footpath separating it into two. He was enchanted, so calm and serene it was. Not even a gentle wind blew, nor a shady tree made the least rustling noise. Only now and then a leaf or a slender stem would fall softly through the air upon the ground, lest it might make the least sound. That was all. I liked not to move a pace further, for fear that my very step might disturb the peace of the place. I stopped a while and kept quiet. I was so glad to feel myself in a lonely place in the long-looked-for Himalaya, the father of Uma. A man came. The silence was broken. This man was, in a sense, a godsend. Seeing how slight and hot the young sannyasin was, he took his bag, which contained a few religious books and a flannel long coat colored garawa, or orange, for the colder regions, and led the way onward. The next 5 miles were a continuous ascent, and it was night before they reached the top. The man went off to his village some distance away, inviting the Swami. But Swami Trigunatita was too exhausted to walk another step, not even to the small town of Bimtal, half a mile down the ridge. My legs were so much irritated, he wrote, that I could hardly seat myself well. A woman and a child passed by and pointed out to him a charitable hospital not far away. To this he walked. His appearance was disreputable. He wore only one cloth, no shoes, no turban, perspiring from every pore. The Durwan, or gatekeeper, would have none of him. Fortunately, the doctor of the place appeared, and recognizing a sannyasin and a man in need, took him in and treated him with all the respect, scolding the Durwan. Thus passed the first day of the Swami's journey to Tibet. He rose before dawn and found that his body was full of pain attended with febrile symptoms. His leg muscles and the soles of his feet were so sore that he could barely stand, and having stood, could barely sit. but he set off. With much difficulty, he wrote, I began to set my foot on the ground, softly one after another, the soles having become so tender. The road was covered with stones and pebbles. Every now and then the sharp pebbles would be thrust into my foot. He walked on, and despite his discomfort, noted with a poet's and a scholar's eye the geological formations and the flora of the Himalayas, which he would later lovingly describe. The road was a pilgrim road from Badrinath and had been thoughtfully equipped by the British Raj with a hospital every 30 miles. Sounds like they needed them. And a government-aided shop every 7 or so miles. At one of which last the Swami stopped and was given bhiksha, food. On this second day of his journey, he came across a caravan of traders with loaded mules and ponies on its way from Katgodam to Ramgarh. These traders took the Swami and his luggage free of charge to the small village of Ramgarh, 13 miles from Bhimtal. There he stayed all night as a guest of one of the men, but it was a tortured night, for swarms of tiny blood-sucking gnats indigenous to the lower Himalayas beset him. Again he rose before daybreak and walked on, arriving by nightfall at Almora. One of the first things Swami Trigunatita did in Almora was to find the house of Lala Badri Shah, with whom Swamiji had stayed in the summer of 1890. Lala Badri Shah, Swami Trigunatita wrote, was a banker and one of the wealthiest men in the Kumaon district. He had great reverence for sannyasins and evidence of Swamiji's having passed that way, worshipped a photo of Sri Ramakrishna in his shrine. He greeted Swami Trigunatita royally and gave him a house to himself. So exhausted was the Swami after his 2-day journey from Katgodam that, aching all over, he barely could climb the staircase, a phenomenally steep one, to his upper story bedroom. This is a trek. At midnight, Lala Badri Shah and his brothers came to press the Swami's legs, a form of sadhu seva or service to a holy man, to which Swami Trigunatita strenuously and unavailingly objected. While performing this service, Badri Shah expressed his desire to send the Swami to Mount Kailash and Lake Manasavar with any amount of men and money. No matter if it costs me 1,000 rupees or more, he said, I can't let a sadhu go to the terra incognita alone where there is no hope of help. Swami Trigunatita strongly objected to this also, and Lala Badri Shah kept silent for the time being and mercifully let him sleep. But while Swami slept, Badri Shah wrote and posted letters to 2 wealthy and influential friends of his who lived on the way to Tibet, asking them to make arrangements for the young sadhu, providing him with money and trusted men. So great was the pain in Swami Trigunatita's entire body that for 3 days he could not leave the house. Badri Shah was in constant and loving attendance on him, and although he had arranged to send him to Tibet by the Biosgata Road, the Garbiang Pass, he invited an old relative to explain the various routes and their difficulties. Every day this old man and several other men of Almora explained to Swami Trigunatita the impossibilities of the journey, by whatever route. Even many of the bhutias, the traders, who are the hardiest of the hillmen and most accustomed to the climate of Tibet, are found to die on their way there. How is it possible for a man of such a delicate form as yours, who becomes so much exhausted in but 2 days' journey from Katgodam to Almora, to undertake such a hazardous journey for 4 months to go and come across the Himalaya. Your legs are not at all sure-footed, which is most necessary if you're going over to Tibet. Moreover, there is a sort of poison at the glacial regions of the Himalayas and all over Tibet. All the travelers and passengers get poisoned there, one and all. Even the Tibetans pant very much. Walk a few paces there, and you become so attacked by the poison that you are almost a dead man. This sounds a lot like oxygen poisoning at super high elevations. A sort of very fine moss flower grows in those regions and emits poison all around. And there's a footnote. This poison, as Swami Trigunatita knew but refrained from informing his well-wishers, was the lack of oxygen at high altitudes. There's another sort of danger. It being the rainy season, landslips occur everywhere in the mountains, and the roads at many places slide down into the river. Many passengers every year are killed by landslips. Very good, the old man and his cronies continued, drawing breath. Let us suppose you withstand or escape all these evils. But what if in the frontier you are not allowed to proceed further by the Tibetan guards, who are but wild, crude, and whimsical men? Or if you fall a victim in the hands of the dacoits, which Tibet, at least the part of it where you're going, abound. Let us suppose you have some sufficient money with you, but what to buy and where to and what and whence to buy with that? They're painting a very bleak picture. In the frontier, they continued, there is everywhere treacherous snow into which you have every chance of being buried and lost forever. Avalanches, no shelter or shade for days on end. The blood congeals, snow blindness by day, snow covered at night. On the way back, certain death. The list of perils went on, and Swami Trigunatita listened with all courtesy and attention, but it was no use. The slight, delicate-looking young man whom they were counseling was not a mere Hannibal or an Alexander the Great. He was a sannyasin of the Ramakrishna order who had made up his mind. Their case was hopeless. I understood it well, Swami Trigunatita later wrote, that if I would start, some danger or other must befall me and would make an end of my life. But I could not help. I could not resist the longing of my heart to be once in the midst of such a place as Kailash. I could not in the least slacken the resolution of a Hindu sannyasi who has entirely devoted his life for the sake of religion only, and who valued not his own life more than the performing of a religious deed. The Swami, his face untouched by the slightest worldly thought or care, and his manner sweet as a happy, insouciant child's, set off from Almora in the pre-dawn of June 21st to cross the Himalaya alone and ill-equipped. Anxiously, Lala Badri Shah made arrangements for his bhiksha and asana, his food and lodging, up to Ashkot, 70 miles from Almora, and implored him to take money, warm clothes, and a few coolies. He, of course, refused, accepting only a few rupees, a blanket, a stick, and God be praised, a lum. A lum is a pair of calf-high boots, generally made all of wool, even the soles. He was armed also with loving and heartening letters that he had just received from 3 of his brother disciples, Swamis Brahmananda, Premananda, and Yogananda. The next day he hired a coolie to carry his luggage, which, with the addition of the blanket and the lum, had become even heavier than before. 3 days later, the coolie disappeared with the blanket, leaving only the rest of the luggage for his erstwhile master. The Swami was unperturbed. I could not but thank him for having first reduced the weight of my luggage, he would write. Had he taken it all, I would have thanked him more. He found no other coolie and marched on, carrying his luggage for 16 exhausting miles, the last 6 of which were a very hard ascent by a steep zigzag road over the woodless crest of the hill called Sat. He was full of joy. It was then night, he continued, not very dark, though very cold. The charming, snowy range was not very remote. From amidst the bright hills stood up some pointed peaks high above others, presenting a very grand view. All around me there was nothing but valleys and peaks. The lofty green hills in view were decorated by nature with silver lines, i.e. the waterfalls, which looked like so many Brahmins, as it were, with their sacred white threads on. Above me there was nothing but the unexpectedly clear and blue firmament adorned with bright stars. Nothing was heard but the pleasing music of the falls. It was so imposing. I sat to meditate on my Lord Sri Ramakrishna and my mother Mahamaya till midnight. I had to pass the night in the open air. It was the happiest night I had ever enjoyed. The verse, Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagatri Samyami, that which is night to all beings, is that in that the self-controlled man awakes, exhibited to me its literal meaning. But soon it was icy cold. The Swami put on all the clothes he had, which were neither many nor warm. It began to rain in torrents. When the rain let up a little, he saw light at a distance, and going up to it with much difficulty, found a little coat with a man and his boy sitting by a fire. They took care of him, and around dawn he grew drowsy and had a dream, or was it a vision? I perceived, he wrote, as if my mother Mahamaya had appeared before me and read a kavacha, mystical protective spell, over several parts of my body, as she did to her beloved twin-born sons, Lava and Kusha, when they were getting ready to fight with Ramchandra. Now, although I knew it was a dream, or a fantastic phenomenon, it filled me much with pleasure and hope. As a matter of fact, it often afterwards invigorated and did me much good. The sun rising, I resumed my journey. That day, Swami Trigunatita reached Ashkot, where the Raja to whom Lala Badri Shah had written showed him great hospitality and kindness. But at Ashkot he caught hill fever, from which he suffered severely for a week. The people of Ashkot told him that to proceed on his journey in that condition would inevitably bring about a fatal attack of pneumonia, but that to delay would be to miss the season for going to Tibet. He chose to proceed. The kindly and devout Raja gave him a Brahmin cook and a coolie and made all necessary arrangements ahead for his bhiksha and asana, food and lodgings. He advised him to go by way of the Dharma Pass, an easier route, which the old men of Almora had not known. Further, he gave him an umbrella, a double-breasted coat of broadcloth, and a pair of hill-made shoes intended for the sun, rain, and cold. I think we'll stop there this evening. And it says, 9 days and 65 miles later. Okay, a cliffhanging end. Any questions or comments? personally, I don't know, the young sannyasins, the young disciples of Ramakrishna had this stupendous intention and austerity and joy in all of it. And they all seemed to take, quite a few of them walked the length of India barefoot. They did these austerities with joy, which they remembered for the rest of their lives. It's amazing. How many of us would take off to walk from here, Camarillo barefoot? Not many, I don't think. Okay. Thursday, we are having tomorrow, Holy Mother's Puja, and I think it will be online, won't it? Yes. It will be online, so you can attend with us here in Santa Barbara, starting about 10:45, 10:30. The Pujari is giving me hints what exact time, 10:30. So tune in early if you're not in Santa Barbara. Otherwise, come up and look in or sit in. Then about 12:45, we'll have a homa fire in the convent living room, which will be followed by prasad lunch. Saturday, we will have a gospel reading of Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna with Swami Trigunatita. Next Sunday, we will have the Triumph of Love, Pravrajaka Vrajaprana. And, I'm sorry? Karma Yoga Day is Saturday the 13th, which I forgot again. We are not going to be weeding. It's too hot. So we are going to be semi-helping the convent get ready for Christmas. We haven't done all of our Christmas decorations yet because of Holy Mother's Puja. Okay, so I hope all of you will be with us in spirit, if not in person. Okay. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Do I turn it off?
No.
Okay.
Because we need it again.